Retro Gamer Girl here, and welcome to the first in the series of Feature of the Week. Now I'm going to be doing this based on a few of our arcades and pinballs, TVs, collections, collectibles, whole things. And I'll be doing this video once a week. But the first one I'm going to kick off with is Sega. Now, you guys have commented more than a few times on wanting to see more of my Sega collection. So, without further ado, let's get into Sega. So my first home console was the Sega Master System 2, and I have my original console still. However, I threw my box away when I was a kid, so this box come from the UK. I ended up finding it on eBay and asked the seller to send it over to me, which is totally awesome. However, eventually my Sega Master System that I left in storage has stopped working, so that's a little bit sad. I don't have a physical copy of Alex the Kid, which is one of my favorite games ever. So definitely, if you haven't played Alex the Kid Miracle World, I definitely recommend that you do. Now, the other item that I ended up grabbing when probably about 12 years ago from a market was the Sega Master System 1. Now, I didn't play this console as a kid. All I ever had was the Sega Master System 2. But I ended up buying this about 12 years ago from a market, as I said, for $20, I think. It does have a little bit of water damage, but the console itself is in fantastic condition. And I don't really care. It's like, for $20, I ended up finding that for an absolute steal. Other items that I've got in the collection is a Sega control pad that I ended up grabbing from Japan. Now this was, at the time, it was fantastic price. It ended up being about $21 Australian, and I didn't actually realize at the time that that control pad was released in Japan as well. So I ended up getting that about 2012. The Genesis thing up here is just a USB hub. That's an aftermarket thing. The Sega control stick was bought in a massive lot. Someone was selling their collection, and I ended up getting this whole collection for about $750. And it had a huge part of PS2 and stuff like that, but it had a few items of Sega which I was obviously really interested in getting. So there was a few Master System games, that control stick and a loose one, and they're quite collectible, and also the gun, which I didn't have one at the time. So yeah, I ended up pretty much buying this whole collection based on having a few bits of Sega that I didn't have that are quite collectible these days. Now, the Mega Drive here that you see has its original price tag from Big W, but it isn't something that we ended up buying ourselves. We ended up getting this from eBay Australia, and I think we paid about $100 delivered for it. My original Mega Drive, which is the version 2 of it, I ended up getting at Cash Converters, I think, Coolangatta on the Gold Coast of all places, for about $5 to $10 when I was maybe, I'd say 17 years old. And that one's still in storage. It's in our main house, and I just keep that aside. It's in really poor condition, to be honest. The box is pretty had it. But we ended up getting this very clean original Mega Drive, and very happy to have this in a collection. But I didn't have a Mega Drive growing up. I ended up only getting the Mega Drive 2 when, as I said, when I was like 16, 17, and I bought that myself. Yeah, very cheap from a cash converter store as well. Then going through our most recent additions will be from when we were in at a trip in Japan. And going to Japan, we always enjoy going through hard off stores. Now, in this particular one hard off, which is one of our secret locations, we ended up finding the original Mega Drive, which, you know, the artwork comparison, I definitely prefer the Japanese one, and also the Mega CD too. We haven't opened these since we've come back from Japan, to be honest. So this was June this year, I think we ended up picking both of these up. I just love them, and they are items that I'd love to continue collecting for. Now, Mega CD in Australia is extremely expensive. Same with the Mega CD 1, which I will show you guys shortly. But we do have a PAL version of the Mega CD 1, but it is only unboxed. Now, both of these here are extreme mint condition. I will do an unboxing video of those at some time because I would love to have both of them hooked up. Then on the very end, I have two controllers which are both Dreamcast related, and I love the Sega Dreamcast. It's a totally underrated console, and I have a light gun which I paid $1 for at a hard off store, and also I paid probably $17 for a boxed Dreamcast controller, which is from another hard off as well. But yeah, that's the top shelf. Let's get into the Master System. In my Sega Master System collection, I have a total of 82 box games and 12 cartridges. And some of these games are just some of the best I've ever played. And one of which is Alex the Kid: The Lost Stars. And this is a totally underrated game. It's overlooked by a lot. Now, I know that Miracle World is a great game, but Lost Stars is one of my favorites. And Alex is taken to another planet, and it's got great coloring and the sounds. I just love this game, and I've always found it super fun. I used to rent this game as a kid. It's not my original, but I do love this game, and I ended up buying this for probably about $2 when I was 15 or 16, and I've never regretted it since. It's one of my favorites. Then going along, there's quite a lot of awesome Master System games, and one of which is Bank Panic. Now, this is one that is set as like a Western style, and it's also a shooter. You are trying to protect the bank that's being robbed by cowboys, and it is one of my absolute favorite games. Doesn't matter what mood I'm in, if I feel like playing Bank Panic, I always play this game. And I don't know who else loves it as much as me, but I definitely love this game. It's one of my favorites. Going through, a lot of you will know that, and it will come as no surprise, that Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse is probably one of the best games I've ever played in my entire life. I love this game. I've played it so many times, and this is my original copy. And along with Bank Panic is still my original copy. But Castle of Illusion was one of the first games I ever received as a gift on the Sega Master System. So it's got special memory for me. The sounds, the stages, there's some fantastic bosses that you go against. I've finished this game multiple times and it never gets old. I absolutely love it. Also in the C section is going to be Choplifter. Choplifter is one game that I used to rent from a local video store with my dad, and my dad and I loved this game. I remember setting up the Master System when we would change TV or something like that, and my dad and I would sit up and play this game. And you have to save little citizens or people that are held in these little igloos, and you've got people shooting at you, and it's one of the best games I've played. I still love it. Maybe I've got rose-colored glasses on, but I absolutely love this game. Going through, there's also other great titles that we can go through, like Fantasy Zone and Fantasy Zone The Maze. They're also awesome games. Land of Illusion, Krusty's Funhouse is also a heap of fun. Donald Duck, the Lucky Dime Caper is also another favourite, but I have to admit, the puzzle game Marble Madness is one of my favourites. I used to rent this game as well. I never owned it originally, but I ended up getting this for an absolute steal. It was another $2 one, and I love this game. It's complete, it's in really excellent condition, and if you haven't played Marble Madness on the NES or the Sega Master System, you definitely should get into this game. It's awesome. Going through, there's a few other ones like Operation Wolf, Outrun, Parlor Games is fun, Paperboy, but another perfect two right next to each other is Penguin Land, which is a puzzle game. Super cute. You got this little penguin that's got to get the egg down to the bottom. It's really hard, but it's one of my favorite games. When I ended up being, I don't even know what year it was. It was probably about 12 or 13 years ago. I ended up picking this game up finally. I bought it on eBay for an absolute steal. It's one of my cleanest games that I own, and it's also one of my favorite games that I own. So I love Penguin Land. Another one is Psycho Fox. This game deserves a re-release, a remaster, or something from Sega. Psycho Fox is a fantastic side-scroller. I love this game. It's a platformer game as well. It's one of the best games ever made on the Sega system, and yeah, you definitely need to look that one up. Going through, there's some other ones that are favorites for some people, like Rainbow Islands, Rescue Mission, Secret Command. For me, they're games that I've collected along the time, but not my favorites. We've got some Simpsons games, Sonic, we all know Sonic and love Sonic, Spy vs Spy, and this game, Streets of Rage. Now, I do enjoy Streets of Rage games, but I actually more so enjoy it on the Mega Drive, but it's a notable good one on the Master System. Then we've got a few other good ones, Tasmania, Teddy Boy, Terminator, Tom and Jerry, Wanted, but I can't go past the original Wonder Boy. The original Wonder Boy has so many levels, and it doesn't matter how many times I've played it, I still can't finish this game. I get to a certain level where I'm just like, I've either had enough or I'm so frustrated and I can't get through. But nothing compares to Wonder Boy. This is my original copy of the game, and I absolutely love it, and I will always have this until the day I die. I love this game. But let's get through some of the other parts of the collection. One part of the collection that I've always wanted to grow but I never have is the Game Gear. Now, the Sega Game Gear, I have bought multiple ones of these handhelds and they do not bloody work. So I have games that I'm not able to play. I've got Jurassic Park, Lemmings, a Japanese copy of Batman. I have a Super 23-in-1, Sonic and Tails, Spider-Man, 2 box games that I ended up buying from a cash converters within the last year for a couple of dollars each. I have the puzzle game and also another just version of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, I would love to have a working Game Gear, which is why I won't sell these games. They're all games that I would love to play, so I'm working on getting a working Game Gear in the collection in the foreseeable future. But I didn't want to miss this stuff because I think it's equally as important as all the other Sega stuff, because I love the Game Gear, but I just don't have a working one. In the Mega Drive collection, I have 77 boxed games and 20 cartridges. Some of my favorites will always be Disney's Aladdin. This is such a classic, and I feel that it's the best on the Mega Drive. I do have the SNES version, but I always continue to go back to this one. It's a little bit rough condition, but I really do love that game. There's also some outstanding games that came out on the Mega Drive, like Batman Returns, there's the Battletoads, Bloodshot, there's Captain Planet as well, which is really good. I love that game. And then going through, I've got Fantastic Dizzy, Flink, the Flintstones, Ghostbusters, Home Alone. They're all good games that I've enjoyed playing over the years. One of which that I really do enjoy is Mickey Mania, and I love this one on the Mega Drive. The artwork on this game is also one of my favorite games of all time, and just love any sort of Mickey game. I think that back in the 90s, these games just stood out and are fantastic. One of my favorite sports games, probably my only favorite sport game really, is Mutant Football League. Now this one I ended up renting quite a lot as a child from a local video store. When they ended up wanting to sell all of their games, I ended up grabbing this one. I think I only paid a couple of dollars for it, and yeah, it's still in its ex-rental case, but I love this game just as equally as all of the other ones. Then going across, there are also other outstanding games like Outrun, Pitfall, Shinobi. There's some great ones in here. Separation Anxiety. One of my other absolute favorites is always going to be Streets of Rage on the Mega Drive. I do prefer this version over the Sega Master System version. It's one game that my husband and I play quite a bit, and my brother-in-law, and we just love Streets of Rage. It's such a good one to play with friends. It's a great game. Then we've got Tailspin. This is a classic. Another one that I totally enjoy. I just love this game, and I ended up paying this like for a steal. So my Mega Drive collection ended up being games that I bought for 50 cents to $1 over the years. It didn't really cost me too much at all, but I love all of the games in the collection. And one of which that I have two of is World of Illusion. I don't normally keep two of a game unless there's a huge variant, and I have the gold collection and also the standard edition of this game. And being that I'm a huge Mickey Mouse fan, you know, I'm always going to keep those two games in my collection forever. I absolutely love them. But there's other games in the Mega Drive collection down on the other shelf, which we'll get into now. Captain Planet, totally awesome, and some other cartridges that I have for the Mega Drive. But two games that I absolutely love because of Sylvester Stallone is Judge Dredd and Demolition Man. And Demolition Man is one really expensive game. It's a lot of fun. I love the cutscenes in it. Acclaim did a good job with this one. Some people will say that it's not a great game, but I really do love Demolition Man along with Judge Dredd. And these movies are just so super 90s, and to have games that match them, they will always be on display in our games room. My husband and I totally love both of those movies and the games, and we play them often. They're very, very good. Another game in the collection is the Makamura game on the Mega Drive. Now, I purchased this because I absolutely suck at all the other versions of this game, and I'm hoping that when I unbox the Mega Drive that I'm able to play this one perfectly. And the artwork is absolutely insane. I love this game. I just wish I could get past the first level. Other items that you probably see here are Dreamcast VMUs. I have two. There's a card reader here from Sega, a Fantasy Zone little collectible like that, a Loot Crate Gaming, which is new, a metal Sonic pin, the amiibo for Sonic, and also a boxed blue VMU. One of the other prized possessions that I own is the Penguin Land version for the Mark III. Now, unfortunately, I turned down buying a Mark III in 2012 for $100 boxed mint condition at Super Potato in Dendon Town, and I totally regret doing that. I did buy this game, however, and I bought it because obviously I've talked about how much I love Penguin Land on the Master System, so I wanted to have both copies of the game. But eventually I will get myself a Mark III so I can play that game as well. Now in here you will see that I have some cartridges for the Master System. It does have Sega Genesis written on the top of it, and it's one of those collectibles that I don't know how I found or where I found this particular carry case, but I'm so glad that I did. I'm asked about it often, but I keep Master System games in here. And the other two little things that I have is the Master Gear Converter 2. I've tried to use this before, it doesn't seem to work, unfortunately. I also have a control stick on display as well. This one does work, and I'm looking forward to obviously playing more games with it. So I have one boxed one and one loose one in the collection so far. But we'll get into the Mega CD and the Dreamcast and Saturn next. One really cool addition to the collection that we've added over the years is a laser active Pioneer controller for the Mega Drive. This was an add-on for the system in Japan, and we ended up finding this for $10, so it was a really good addition, and I'm happy that we were able to add that. Then on the Mega CD PAL games that we have, we've got quite a few that are personal favourites to Retro Gamer Guy, one of which is the In Excess one, and it is Make My Video. This is a sort of weird one. I don't particularly enjoy it, but one time we ended up finding a sealed copy of this game, and it's one that will be forever treasured because we do love In Excess so much. So it's one of those games that's not great, but you know, one of the favorites in this household. There is Road Avenger and Sonic CD. Sonic CD we ended up grabbing on eBay super cheap. Even in the last, I think, 2 years, I think we ended up grabbing that. Prices have shot up for this game. I think collectors have grabbed onto it and not really letting go of it. Then we go into, we only have a small library of the Japanese games for the Mega CD. We have the Japanese Night Trap, and also Final Fight. It's one game that I really enjoy on the Famicom is Final Fight. Then going through on the Sega Saturn, there are some great games that I have here. A lot, like I like the NBA game. I've got some shooters and stuff like that, but one that I found on my most recent trip was the X-Men Children of the Atom. I found this in Akihabara, and I think I paid $3 for it. It was probably mispriced, but it's a great fighting game. Super good, Capcom. Another one that I purchased was Rockman X3 on the Sega Saturn. I find this exceptionally hard to play, but nonetheless I try and play it anyway. It's another good game. The rest, you know, Virtual Cop and stuff like that in here. Then I've got Sonic Jam as well, with PAL Dreamcast. Now the Dreamcast, as I said, is a totally underrated system. I wish I had more games. I do have a sealed copy of Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX. I love this game. It's one of my favorites. I prefer it on the PS1, but I ended up buying this for $30 Australian about 3 years ago. I have Soul Calibur, Virtual Fighter in PAL versions. Then in the Japanese games, I have some favorites. Marvel vs. Capcom. I ended up buying this in my most recent trip. I think this cost me about $10. And then Crazy Taxi 2. Crazy Taxi is one of the best games for racing / you know, arcade fun. I've got Biohazard, and then there's just a couple of other ones, and I think we finish off here with Sonic Adventure, which is another excellent game on the Sega Dreamcast. And then following up, we've got the Seaman at the end here. So yeah, we've gone through all of the Sega collections so far that I have. Now we need to take a quick look at the hooked up consoles. On this side of the games room, we have a PAL system setup, and this is the Sega Master System 2, the Mega Drive 1, and also the Mega CD 1, all PAL. We'd love to get a boxed version of the Mega CD, but we don't have one as yet. On this side of the room, I have the Dreamcast edition, the standard one, with the Senior Managing Director on the front, and on the side of it, I think it might even be on the back of it, but it's the orange box one. The Regulation 7 Dreamcast as well. My favorite Hello Kitty, which is the blue one. There's two variants of this. There's a pink and a blue. I love this one. And my Sega Saturn boxed. So they're all complete, those units. And I also have a This Is Cool pad and then a Dreamcast one there, which is the Millennium controller. Down here, I have my Hello Kitty setup and my This Is Cool Sega Saturn. Now this one's actually unboxed. I wish I could find a boxed version of it, but I ended up getting this really cheap. So this would have been from eBay for probably $100 landed. My Hello Kitty I bought at a book off in Tokyo, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, and I paid $50 for it. They were selling it so cheap because they couldn't test it, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with it when we got back to the room. I don't know how they said they couldn't test it. We bought a $2 game, which is probably bass fishing, and it worked perfectly. Then on this side I also have set up a Sega Master System one. This particular one is not the greatest condition and it has Martin's name engraved in it, but it does work perfectly, and it's one that we ended up getting on a steal in a bulk buy, so I ended up just wanting to use this particular unit. One super cool item that we ended up picking up in Den Den Town is the Mega Jet. Now this was originally handed out on flights to entertain the passengers, and it played Mega Drive games. Later on it was released to the general public and sold, which is what you'll see right now, and I absolutely love this item, but you do need to have a TV to play it. It's one of the best items that we have in our collection, and it sits front and center in our games room. Also is the Game Gear that I ended up buying for on the cheap on eBay, but unfortunately, like I've said before, the Game Gears that I have don't work. But anyway, that's one of the other things in the games room that I need to get sorted out and get working, because I really do want to collect for the Sega Game Gear.